This is going to be a long section. I'll try to get it done as quickly as I can, but it's just going to be long. This is section 1.7, and essentially we're going to be using Venn diagrams or creating Venn diagrams to solve word problems. And instead of the numbers in the Venn diagrams being elements of sets, they'll represent something in terms of a word problem. And just to give you a feel for how we're going to use Venn diagrams for this section, I made up an example problem here. I said a group of ASU students were asked if they'd been to a Sun Devil basketball game or a Sun Devil football game this year, and the Venn diagram below summarizes the results. And there's 4 different numbers in this Venn diagram, and in each number I'm going to call it's in a region. So the number 52 is in the region 1 that we've been using back in section 1.5. And what I want to do right now is describe what each of these numbers represents in terms of these students that were asked whether they'd been to an ASU basketball game, an ASU football game, and how they responded. These 52 students right here, because they're inside the basketball circle, they definitely have been to an ASU basketball game. On the other hand, those 52 students, that 52 represents 52 students, aren't in the part of the basketball circle that overlaps the football. So that means they went to a basketball game because they're in the basketball circle. They're outside the football circle, so they didn't go to a football game. So this region 1 represents the 52 students who had been to a basketball game but not been to a football game. The next region I'm going to look at is this region 2, and in this region 2 there's a number 12, and that number 12, it's part of the blue basketball circle, it's also part of the red football circle. So those 12 students in region 2, they've been to the basketball, a Sun Devil basketball game, and a Sun Devil football game. So this 12 represents 12 students. And it's 12 students that have been to both. So here I said region 2 represents the 12 students that have been to both a basketball game and a football game, or a Sun Devil basketball and football game. The next region I want to describe is region 3. Region 3 are these 63 students, and because these 63 students are in the football circle, they've been to a football game. It's not part of the basketball circle, they haven't been to a basketball game. So the 63 students in region 3, the 63 in region 3 represents the 63 students that have been to a Sun Devil football game but have not been to a basketball game. The last region is the region outside the circles, region 4. The 8 is the number that's outside the circles, and because it's outside the basketball circle and outside the football circle, this 8 represents 8 of the students that were surveyed, and these are the 8 students that had not been to a football game, and they had not been to a basketball game. They hadn't been to either. So this Venn diagram, it shows for each of the students that was surveyed whether they went to basketball, and football, or none of the above. So once we get into the word problems a little bit deeper into this section, we're going to be given some information. We're going to have to create the Venn diagram by ourselves, and then we're going to answer questions. Some of the kinds of questions that we might be asked to answer are on this page here, or the next few pages. So here's one question that we might want to answer about this Venn diagram. How many students interviewed said they'd been to a football game? So that's not supposed to be tricky, but it can be tricky. So to answer the question, how many students interviewed had been to a football game, I just can't glance at the 63 under the football and say there were 63 students that were interviewed that had went to a football game. I have to look at the entire football circle. And in the entire football circle, there's the 63 students that went to a football game but didn't go to a basketball game, and these 12 students that went to a football game and went to a basketball game. All of these students need to be counted if I want to answer the question how many students interviewed had been to a football game. So it's going to be these 12 that have been to both sports and those 63 that have been to just football only. And the answer to this question, how many students had been to a football game, would be 75. Another kind of question that we might ask is how many of the students went to exactly one of the two sports, meaning they went to one but not two. And that's going to count those 52 students that went to basketball only but not football, and these 63 students that went to football only but not basketball. Those 52 students and those 63 students went to exactly one of the two sports. Those 12 students went to both sports, and those 8 students didn't go to either sports. So if I want to count how many went exactly one of the two sports, I'm going to add up the 52 and the 63 and get 115 students. The trickiest question, the question that students get most wrong, are the or questions. And the question on this page is, how many students went to a football game? Or a basketball game? And when we're asked an or question, we're going to add up all the numbers in either of the circles. So these 52 students would classify as going to a football or a basketball game because they went to a basketball game. These 12 students count as going to a football or a basketball game because they went to both. And those 63 students count as going to a football or a basketball game because they went to football. These 8 students didn't go to a football game, nor did they go to a basketball game. They don't count. Anytime we're asked an or question in this section, we're going to add up all the individual numbers in any of the sets that are mentioned or any of the circles that are mentioned. So I'm going to add up the numbers in the football and the basketball circle, all the individual numbers, the 52, the 12, and the 63. And the answer to the question, how many students went to a football game or a basketball game, would be 127. Lastly, before we get to a 3-circle Venn diagram, how many students were surveyed? The number of students surveyed for this survey, every student fits in one of the 4 categories. It's just going to be the result of adding up all the numbers that I see in the Venn diagram. So if I add up the 52, the 12, the 63, and the 8, I get 135 students were surveyed. Next thing we're going to do is move on to 3-circle Venn diagrams. Everything about them is going to be harder. The questions we ask about them are harder, and creating them is way harder. So here's a Venn diagram that has it represents a group of students that were surveyed to determine which of the 3 types of food they liked. Some students liked more than one type of food, and some didn't like any of the 3 types. And so there's 3 circles in the Venn diagram. A circle for the students that said they liked pizza, a circle that represents the students that liked hamburger, and a circle that represents the students that like taco. For each of the regions, there's 8 regions here. There's regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to make a little table to describe what each region is. So I'm going to try to describe what each one of these numbers in these regions represent. And I'm going to make a little table. And I'm going to make 3 columns in my table, actually 4, but 1 for each type of food. A column for pizza, a column for hamburger, a column for taco, or tacos, I guess, and I'm going to go one region at a time. So for region 1 right here, I'm going to describe what those 4 students, so these are the 4 students in region, the 4 students that were surveyed whose result winds up in region 1, and I'm going to describe which of the foods they like. Because these 4 students are part of the pizza circle, they're going to like pizza. So I'm going to put next to pizza, because we're asking what type of food they like. They like pizza because those 4 students are in the pizza circle. When I reference those students to hamburgers, those students are not part of the hamburger circle because the hamburger circle only contains the numbers encapsulated in that red. And so I'm going to say, how about something horrible grammatically? They don't like? How about don't like rather than not like? Speak like my 5-year-old niece. And then similarly, these 4 students that came in region 1, They're not part of the taco circle either. I circled the taco in yes, yellowish orange color, so they don't like tacos. Those 4 students in region 1 only like the pizza. They don't like the hamburgers because they're not one of the 4 numbers in the hamburger circle, and they don't like the tacos because they're not one of the 4 numbers in the taco circle. I'm going to move on to region 2, which is those 3 students. And those 3 students, because they're in one of the 4 numbers of the pizza circle, they like pizza. Those 3 students, because they're part of the red hamburger circle, they like hamburger. But because they're not in the yellow circled taco circle, they don't like tacos. Region 3 is for those 2 students. I'm going to start abbreviating L for like and DL for don't like. These 2 students, they're in the red hamburger circle, so they like hamburgers. They're not one of the 4 numbers in the pizza circle, so they don't like pizza. And they're not one of the 4 numbers in the taco circle, so they don't like tacos. And this was region 3. It was a number 2, but region 3. Now I'm going to move on to region 4. Region 4 is those students there, because those 2 students are part of the blue pizza circle and part of the yellow taco circle. They like pizza and they like tacos. They're not one of the 4 numbers in the hamburger circle. So those 2 students right there, they don't like hamburgers. Now I'll move on to region 5, which is dead center. That region 5, that number, that number 5, it's one of the 4 numbers in the pizza circle. It's one of the 4 numbers in the hamburger circle. It's one of the 4 numbers in the taco circle. That region 5 represents the students that liked each kind of food that was surveyed. Now for region 6, the only one they don't like the pizza because they're not part of the pizza circle, but they are one of the numbers in the hamburger and the taco circles. So for region 6, it's a don't like pizza, like hamburgers, like tacos. Region 7 is this number 3, and that number 3 is only part of the taco circle. It's not one of the 4 numbers in the pizza circle. It's not one of the 4 numbers in the hamburger circle. Those 3 people like tacos, but they don't like pizza nor hamburgers. So they like tacos, but they don't like pizza, and they don't like hamburgers. That's region 7. And region 8 is outside the circles. These 10 that are outside the circles, because that 10's not part of any of the circles, they didn't like hamburgers, pizza, nor tacos. So those are the 8 regions in this Venn diagram that we needed to figure out what each number meant. Now that I understand what each number meant, I'm going to ask some more complicated questions. The first of the more complicated questions is how many students like hamburgers? Well, the students that like hamburgers is anyone in the hamburgers that has a like. So region 2, region 3, region 5, and region 6. All those regions classified as students that like hamburgers. And real specifically, the students that like hamburgers are all the students that made their way into the hamburger circle, whether it was an overlapping part of the hamburger circle or just a generic part of the hamburger circle. So those 3 students that like hamburgers and pizza but not tacos, those 2 that liked hamburgers but not the other 2, those 5 that liked all 3, and these 1 right here that liked hamburgers and tacos but not pizza. All of these are part of the hamburger circle, so all of those students represented liked tacos, and apparently that adds up to 11. Next thing we're going to answer is how many students liked exactly one of the 3 types, meaning they liked one type but didn't like the other 2, and that's exactly what these numbers were. These numbers in these part of the circles, they're only in one part of the circle. If we look at my little table, that 4 right there is like they liked pizza but didn't like the other 2. This 2 in region 3, they liked hamburgers but they didn't like the other 2. And that 3 in region 7, they liked tacos but not the other 2. So I'm going to add up those numbers right there, and I'm going to go 4 plus 2 plus 3, and I'll get 9 students that liked exactly one of the 2 types. Next question is an or question, and anytime we're asked an or question, we're going to count all the numbers in these circles that are referenced. So how many students liked hamburgers or pizza? I'm going to count all of the numbers that are in the hamburger circle or in the pizza circle or both. I've kind of circled all the numbers I'm going to count. I circled the entire hamburger circle and the entire pizza circle. I'm just going to go across and add 4, 3, 2, 2, 5, and 1. This 4, this 3, this 2, this 2, this 5, and this 1. So that's 4, 7, 9, 11, 16, 17. So for the or questions, we're adding up all the numbers in the circles that are mentioned. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers there. Last question, how many students were surveyed? For how many students were surveyed, we just add up all the individual numbers, 4, 3, 2, 2, 5, 1, 3, and 10. I just added these up and I got 30. All right, so now we're going to do some word problems, and I'll walk through problem 1 with you. So problem 1 gives me a Venn diagram. So a group of theater majors were asked whether they were in the drama club or the music club. So there's a circle labeled drama, which for the students that responded, they were part of the drama club. And then the next circle is the students that were in the music club, if there are such clubs. The results are summarized. So there were 9 students that were taking drama but not music, 15 in both clubs, 9 in the drama club, but not, well, let me just go through this. So describe what each region means. And for myself, I'm going to use the regions that have the numbers that we've been doing. So we're going to do region, I'll never fit this here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so when I go to do this for region, how about I just make a nice little table here again. So we're going to go region 1, region 2, 3, idiot. Let me get a better sheet of paper out because I'm butchering this horribly. So let me make a table because I feel this is a real nice way to do this, even though I didn't do it on my key. So there's going to be regions, and the regions are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and in those regions there's numbers, and we have to decide whether the students are in the drama club, in the music club, or not in the drama club and not in the music club. In region 1, this corresponds to these 9 students because that's in the drama circle. They're in the drama club, so I'm going to say how about a member of the drama club, and because that is not part of the music circle, the music circle only has the numbers 15 and 7. That 9 is not part of the music circle, so they're not a member of the music club. For region 2, that's the 15 in the middle. It's one of the 2 numbers in the drama circle, so they're a member of the drama club. And it's one of the 2 numbers in the music circle, so they're a member of the music club. Region 3 represents that 7 right there. That 7 is outside. It's not one of the 2 numbers in the drama circle, so they're not a member of the drama club, those 7 students. But that 7's inside the music club, so they are a member of the music club. The last number in region 4 is this 12. It's outside both circles, and those 12 students are not a member of either club. So that feels like a good answer to describe what each of the regions represent, and this is a little bit cleaner answer than I have written on my key. On my key, I use Roman numerals, which we haven't got to yet. I use I for 1, I for 2, I for 3, and IV for 4. You may not be familiar with those, but it's kind of nice that we're being exposed to those because we're going to see those in Chapter 2 anyway, so it's kind of nice to just get a sneak peek. So that's the answer for Part A. Let me move on to Part B and see if I can just fit it right there. How many students were in only one of the 2 clubs? Well, that's going to be those 9 students that were only in drama, they're only in one of the two clubs because they're not in music, and those 7 that were in music but not drama. So for these, I'm going to add up the 9 students that were only in drama but not music, those 7 that were only in the music club and not drama. The answer to this should be 16. Part C, how many were in the drama club or the music club? For all the or questions, we're going to add up all the numbers in either of the names circles mentioned. So I'm going to add up the 9, the 15, and the 7, the numbers that are in the drama or the music circles. Any number in the drama or music circles, I'm going to add up for the or questions. And this is going to give me 31 if I haven't made a mistake. And lastly, how many students were surveyed? I just add up all the numbers in any of the circles. So that 9 from region 1, that 15 from region 2, that 7 from region 3, and that 12 from region 4. And if I adding those properly, I think you get 43. So this was 31 for that in case it doesn't look like 31 anymore. I'm going to skip over my 2. I'm going to flash number 3 up for you to do. So it has a group of coffee drinkers were asked what they added to their coffee. Some added cream, some added sugar, and it doesn't look like there were anybody that didn't add anything, that took it just black because there aren't any numbers outside the circle. You're supposed to describe the numbers in each of the regions, and there is no region 4. So when you go to answer it, your answer probably should be something like this. Region 1 is they use cream but not sugar. Region 2, they use both. Region 3, they use sugar but not cream. Region 4, they don't choose any. The answers to part B, C, and D, just in case you're going to need them, I have 0, 71, and 51 down. So you can give that, pause the video, give it a go, try to match up those answers. I think I'm going to work through number 5 with you and not do number 4. So for number 5, we're given a Venn diagram. An international school offers French, Spanish, and Japanese classes. A group of students was asked which of the languages they studied. And first of all, I'm going to describe what each region represents. And these are students that are either taking French class, Spanish class, or Japanese, or maybe even all 3. So I'm going to real quickly make a table to describe each of the 8 regions. So there's region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I like the table so much, I'm going to continue with that. So there's 8 regions. And in each region, it represents a student that is either taking French, Spanish, or Japanese, so I have region 1, 2, 3, 4, here need me count to 8, I guess. So here's my 8 regions. Okay, so region 1 is those 23 students, they're taking French. I'm just going to say yes that they're taking French. It's probably horrible, but I'm going to live with it just to save some time. And they're not taking Spanish because they're not part of the Spanish circle. Let me circle these in colors. So 23 is one of the numbers in the French circle, so I'm going to count it for French. It's not one of the 4 numbers in the Spanish circle, so they're not taking Spanish. And it's not one of the numbers in the Japanese circle, so they're not taking Japanese. So we're going to say French, yes, Spanish, how about no? And Japanese, how about no? Region 2, those 20 students are one of the 4 numbers in the French circle. They're one of the 4 numbers in the Spanish circle, so they're taking French. They're taking Spanish. Those 20 students aren't one of the 4 numbers in the Japanese circle, so they're not taking Japanese. Those 32 students in region 3 are only one of the 4 numbers in the Spanish circle, so it's going to be taking Spanish, but not taking French and not taking Japanese. Region 4, That 5 is one of the 4 numbers in the French circle. It's one of the 4 numbers in the Japanese circle. So that region 4, they're taking French because they're one of the 4 numbers in the French circle. They're taking Japanese because they're one of the 4 numbers in the Japanese circle. They're not taking Spanish because they're not one of the numbers in the Spanish circle. The 4 in the middle, which is in region 5, is in all 3 circles. It's one of the numbers in all 3 circles. So those 4 students are taking all 3 languages, which feels insane. These 7 in region 6, it's one of the 4 numbers in the Spanish circle, so they're taking Spanish. It's one of the 4 numbers in the Japanese circle, so they're taking Japanese. But that 7 is not one of the 4 numbers in the French circle, so they're not taking French. Region 7 down here, that 9, it's only one of the 4 numbers in the Japanese circle, so they're taking Japanese, but it's not one of the 4 numbers in the French, and it's not one of the 4 numbers in the Spanish circle. There's no students represented out here, but if there was a student outside the circles, they wouldn't be taking any of the 3 classes. The region 8, outside the circles, you're not taking any of the classes that were referenced. So that would be a beautiful answer for 5A. Again, in my answers, I use Roman numerals instead of the numbers here. So for 1 and 2, I use I and double I. 3 as a Roman numeral is triple I. 4 as a Roman numeral is IV. 5 as a Roman numeral is V. 6 is VI. 7, I'm getting lazy here, is VII. And 8 is VIII. But I'll live with just regular numbers just fine. I don't need to have Roman numerals just yet. All right, so now we'll move on to the questions about this. So first of all, how many students studied exactly one of the 3? Those are the numbers that are only in one of the circles. That's going to be, for this problem B, it's going to be those 23 that are studying only French, those 32 that are only Spanish, and those 9 that are only Japanese. I'm going to add up the 23, a 32, and a 9, and I get 64 for that. Next one is an or question. So how many studied Spanish or French? I'm going to add up all the numbers in the French circle and all the numbers in the Spanish circle. So when I'm asked an or question, I look at those circles and add up all the numbers in either of them. So I'm just going to go all the Spanish numbers and all the French numbers. So I'm going to add up 23 plus 20 plus 32 plus 5 plus 4 plus 7, because those are all the numbers in the Spanish or the French circle. And when I add those up, assuming what I'm looking at off screen has the right answer, yeah, I think it adds up to 91. D is harder because it says how many students studied Spanish or French. That would be all of these students, all 91 of these students. But it adds a horribleness. It says, but not Japanese. So what I have to do is from the 91 students that studied Spanish or French that I counted up here, I need to take out all the ones that are also studied Japanese. So the Spanish or French represented those 6 numbers, but now I'm only counting the ones that studied Spanish or French but not Japanese, so I'm discounting those. So I'm taking these 3 out. So these are the students here that studied Spanish or French without Japanese. These are Spanish or French and Japanese. So I'm only going to add up the 23, the 20, and the 32 here. And that's going to give me, if I added them up properly, 75. I think I'm going to do this video in 3 segments. So this will be segment 1, and it's already pushing a half hour, so it feels like a good breaking point. And then I'll do a part 2 and a part 3, and they'll get progressively longer.